Hello and welcome to Karate Time. Good morning everyone, and welcome to a very, very sunny Sunday morning and another episode of Karate Time. Today's subject, McDojos. And McDojo videos have been done everywhere. There's so many of them. In fact, if you want probably the best one, there's a great YouTube channel called McDojOLife. I highly recommend having a look at it, because it's not only do they look at just some of the ludicrous things you see out there, but they also look to expose some of these, which is quite interesting. So I'm going to take a slightly different tact, perhaps, with it, but for anyone that doesn't know what I'm talking about, a McDojo is a term that gets used to describe essentially the bullshit masters when it comes to martial arts. So you know the type. You've got the ones who do no touch knockouts. You've got the chi masters, and I'm not saying, I'm not being derogatory to those who believe in chi. I'm talking about people who believe that they're using chi power to knock people out. You've got the ones, where someone grabs hold of their wrist and they just look at them, and that person, and it just collapses on the floor. Basically what I'm saying is McDojo is a place full of idiots. And like I said, there's millions of videos about McDojos and what they are and how they behave and so on. So the tact I wanted to take, though, is I wanted to look at Mukdojo Ego, because the way a McDojo exists is not just down to the teacher, it's down to the people below them. So it's the ego of the teacher. I call them a teacher. It's probably the wrong word, because they're not. The ego of the McDojo leader, perhaps that's probably the best one. There's typically an ego sense there, where they are doing it for their own self-aggrandizement. They're doing it because they want glory, and they want to believe in the things that they think can really happen. Like I said, all these stupid no-touch knockouts and so on. The problem is, though, is that they typically end up being people of a certain level of charisma. And there's one of the researchers that I work with sometimes, he actually mentions, he does a lecture about the charismatic leader in sport. And one of the things he talks about is Bruce Lee being a charismatic leader. And the reason he mentions it is because now what's happened is, in Wing Chun, for example, in Jeet Kune Do, what's happened is a lot of the teachers now, they try to show their link to Bruce Lee. So they want to legitimize through the chain that their link to Bruce Lee, to give them that sense that they are a legitimate authorized teacher. And it often comes from this idea of charismatic leadership. Now, these McDojo groups, when you look at their videos online, oh God, there's so many of them, they often have classes, of 20, 30, 40, 50 people. And you look at it and you go, how? And then you look at it and go, why? Because it's crap. There's no... My instructor always says you don't have to be an expert in something to look at two of them side by side and work out which one's better than the other. And I tend to agree with him on that. You can, if anyone's like me in this day and age, if you start doing something, you tend to look at videos about it. Now, if I took up one of these McDojo karates, I'd probably Google karate and look at the other styles. But what happens is, instead of them looking at them and going, oh my god, that one's so much better, maybe I should be doing that, what they do is they go, well, no, mine must be superior because we can knock people out. And they start to believe this stuff. And it makes me think of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Who's the bigger fool, the fool or the fool that follows him? And that's the problem. And that's why my tact is slightly different. I don't think these McDojos could exist without a certain demographic in the populations. The reality is that you end up with this circle, this little cult following, and that inflates the ego of the person that starts that group, to the point where they actually start to believe what they're doing is real. You know, I don't think many of these McDojo people, I think most of them did it because it's a bit of it's an ego trip, and it's a scam most of the time. But when they get enough people that start to follow them and start to essentially, what's the word I'm looking for? It's reinforce. They start to reinforce the practices that this person is promoting. They start to genuinely believe it themselves, and you see it in some of McDojOLife videos. There's one guy who, you know, he sort of does like a loose version of an Aikido, where he's just knocking people over by like brushing their shoulders, and they collapse on the floor in heaps. And as soon as they get challenged, like they do closed seminars, and there was a video where someone actually infiltrated it and challenged him and said, "But it's crap, it doesn't work." And the guy got him up to demonstrate with him, and of course nothing worked. It didn't happen, and he keeps trying to. And you've probably seen it. There's a certain look they always have. It's it's like, oh, look at me. Look how casual I am with my fantastic prowess. And they always have that slight walk, which is oh, look at my casual approach to how I've just knocked you over with my mind. Yeah, and of course it doesn't stand up to any scrutiny or any proper martial artist, and yet they still somehow still exist. Now, the reason I brought this up, actually, I should tell you, there was a trigger for this for me, which is, I'm not going to name names now, but there is basically what I now consider a McDojo, not far away. There's a UK-based one that I've come across, and the reason I mention this is, I said I'm not going to name names because I don't want to cause any issues or anything. I'm not trying to expose groups, but what happened was, it was the person in charge. I've never met them, and so I am making judgments here, but they have a lineage that is actually very, very strong lineage. So a bit like I said with the whole Bruce Lee down to someone, down to the teacher, people like to be able to map that hierarchy to the founders if they can. And this person has a very, very good lineage in that sense. And when you realise that on paper, you go, okay, this is really interesting. This should be an exceptional martial artist with a very good pedigree and background, and long years of development. But then when you watch the YouTube videos of their group training, it's laughable. It's essentially, they are almost to the point of no touch knockouts. Not quite, but it's, someone grabs hold. They got like 3 students holding onto their arm, and they'll just sort of go like that, and they'll all fall over. I mean, it's bollocks. But you can see all the students are going, they're all standing there around them watching this demonstration, going, oh, how good they are. And this is what worries. And of course, the ones that fell over, they're going, oh my God, I can't believe how good this guy is. But the worrying thing is, I think they genuinely believe it's happening, or they've got to the point where they fool themselves enough to believe it's real. And what's happened is, this person who who, like I said, on paper has a good lineage of and should be therefore a good martial artist. I think they've started to believe it themselves. They started to believe in their own legend, and this is where the ego of those McDojos just is worrying. I think they start to believe they're in their own legend that they've created, false legend, I should say, and this is by no means a new thing. I mean, I should say these type of people have existed throughout history. I mean, there's stories going back to the, like the Middle Ages with basically knights who invented tales of daring and daring do, and essentially they were just very good promoters. They hired a bard or a minstrel to write songs and stories about them, but actually they didn't either do any of the deeds they did, or they're massively inflated. So it's not like these are new things, but you could kind of forgive things in an age. I mean, it was always said that the ignorance, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, the ignorance of society is just is a reflection of a lack of information. Well, we've got the internet now, full of information, and I think that's proved that completely wrong, because with all that information, there's still idiots out there that believe these things. I didn't want this to turn into so much of a rant, It was supposed to be more of a measured discussion about the development of the ego. But yeah, I did that thing where I watched a video of this group, and then I watched another one, and then I watched another one, and then I watched another one, and down the rabbit hole I went, just annoying myself watching it, because I'm just going, what's wrong with these people? And yeah, I kept watching more and more of them. Another surefire way to tell a McDojo though is when if they release YouTube videos of themselves and they put things up like seminars and courses and stuff, have a look and see if comments have been disabled. I can guarantee you they have, because any respectable martial artist would be voicing their views on it. So they always disable comments. But yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there before I just wind myself up with it. But like I said, have a look at McDojOLife. It's really good fun. But it's also, I think you could do, I'm kind of tempted to do a study on McDojos, and the ego of the McDojo instructor. Yeah, that could be an interesting one for a martial art journal. Bet that will go down well. Yeah. Possibilities. The possibilities. I'd probably have to go and train with them for research purposes, wouldn't I? That could be fun. Maybe we should just invite a group of our group down, and we could just go in there en masse. No, Simon. Bad thoughts. Right, anyway, I'm going to leave it on that before I do spiral down a direction I didn't want to go. Yeah, look them up, see what you can find about them, see if you can find any near you, and see if you can spot them. And other than that, everyone, enjoy Sunday, and I will speak to you again soon. Cheerio.